Hi everyone. Welcome to my live stream. I'm Lei. All right, I see someone saying that the temperature, Texas Panda say it's cool and crisp tonight, 52 degree. I assume that's in Texas. Is that considered cool for Texas in November? Yes? All right. Where I am, it's cold and windy. Okay. A week ago today, I think it was last Thursday, I did a program on the 62-year-old man who staged a road rage in Zhuhai, Guangdong, and it's only 7 days ago. But within the last 7 days, we've seen quite a number of similar random acts of violence in China. So, so here's the question: why are we seeing so many random acts um, of violence in China all of a sudden, right? And China appears to be on the verge of entering a dark age. And then these type of violence has become a new norm. So tonight we will talk about. We'll first talk about the weaponization of automobiles and the CCP leadership's response. And then we'll talk about college students bloodshedding on college campuses and how it's related to the economy. And then we'll talk about the causes, and we'll together explore some of the causes. Um, so I talked about the November 11th incident in which a car rammed into a crowd at a sports center in Zhuhai, causing dozens of people, dozens of deaths and injuries. The official numbers was 35 casualties and I think 47 injuries. But the actual death toll that I heard reached or was at least 65. And 270, nearly 270 people were hit, of which 65 died, or at least 65 died. And Xi Jinping and Premier Li Qiang issued rare directives about the incident. Like I said in my November 14th program, the case highlights an assortment of problems in China, from poor economy, high divorce rate, high infidelity rate, to corrupt judicial system. That's one weaponization of automobiles. And then on November 19th, another car ramming incident occurred. And this time it was outside a primary school in Changde City, Hunan province. The car hit a large number of students and their parents early in the morning. I think it was during the time when students arrive at the school. I haven't heard any concrete numbers about the casualties and then the number of people who were injured, but judging from the videos that I've seen, it's not a small number. And allegedly, the driver or the perpetrator is a 39-year-old man, and his 9-year-old son had been repeatedly bullied at school by senior class member or students from senior class. The boy suffered severe injuries, including injuries to his testicles. The father sought justice from the school, the local government, and the police, but was ignored. In his desperation, he staged the tragedy. And then on November 20th, another car ramming incident occurred in Baoding, Hebei province, and the act was deliberate by the driver. And then today there's another one in Zhuhai. So the weaponization of automobiles have put the authorities on edge. These incidents have prompted the state media, CCTV, to make a short video telling people how to escape this type of car attacks or automobile attacks. In China, and that's very ironic, This is like CCTV admitting that this is going to be a problem in China. They're not isolated cases, or else they wouldn't be making a video telling people how to escape in case you see a car, like coming towards you. In China, the possession of guns is strictly outlawed, right? And the CCP has put knives and explosives strictly under control. I heard that chefs' knives in restaurant or in the kitchen in restaurants must be chained to their tables. But who have thought that the hundreds of millions of vehicles on the road in China are now the biggest security risk and the biggest and potentially the biggest public safety hazard. Now China has entered a period of indiscriminate social retaliation, and the individuals that I've mentioned earlier usually have felt hopeless after experiencing injustice. They usually have exhausted legal channels and avenues for social relief. Or I should say, they have exhausted legal channels, and the avenues for social relief were all blocked for them. And also in China, without the deterrent of faith or spirituality, they resort to extreme actions. And the essence of this type of indiscriminate retaliation is its randomness. And that's the scary part, because it's hard to prevent when automobiles are weaponized, right? I mean, like I said, you have hundreds of millions of cars and all sorts of cars on the road. And how are you going to prevent that from happening? So the CCP leadership has taken this, seriously, and they have told the local governments to address the problem. But their solutions will only add fuel to the flame, because the solutions do not work. Following the car ramming incident in Zhuhai on the 11th, local government decided to take care of senior citizens and will visit everyone. They define senior citizen as anyone who was born before November 1st, 1968. So that makes anyone above the age of 56 in China. I think people retire at the age of 50 for women, and 50, maybe 55, depends on the industry. But for manufacturing, I think women retire at the age of 50, and for men it could be 55. So they decided to visit everyone born before November 1st, 1968. And they want to pay a house visit. And they want to focus on three types of people: those who don't have children, who don't have a spouse, or who don't have a parent. You wonder, well, at that age, a lot of them don't have a parent. That's true, but people in their 50s and 60s could still have a parent. Because they think if you have a parent, then the chances for you to do something drastic is very small, because they are the ones, they're the caregivers for the parents. So they're focusing on three types of people: those who don't have a spouse, don't have a parent or parents, and don't have children. And they will gather those who are healthy. And it's very interesting. They'll gather those who are healthy and centrally manage them. They'll move them to a dorm-like facility. I mean, I don't know how they're going to execute this, but I saw the notice that pretty much said that they're going to move them to a dorm-like facility where 8 people will share a room. And there will be there will be people attending them 24 hours. I think that's 24 hours surveillance. And for those who are handicapped or are sick, they will be allowed to stay at home, but the government officials will periodically visit them. So this is like a big joke, because if you're healthy, you're asked to live in a camp, have someone look after you. But if you're really sick and handicapped and can't move, they let you stay at home. I mean, the purpose is so obvious. It's not to take care of you, but to keep an eye on you. Well, the reason is that the man who staged the who had the road rage on November 11th was a 62-year-old man. So the CCP thinks that they should pay special attention to people, older. Across China, authorities are ordered um, they're ordered an investigation into individuals, or I shouldn't say investigation, identification. So across the nation, local governments are ordered to identify and keep an eye on individuals with potential risks, and they're classified as 4 withouts and 5 failures. In Chinese, there are 四无 and 五失, 5 no's and 4 no's and 5 failures. So it's very comical. Okay, so what are the four no's or 4 withouts? So they number 1 is are not married, without marriage or children. Number 2 is without a job or steady income. Number 3 is without properties such as a car or a home. And number 4 is not able to communicate normally. So those are the four no's, or the people who don't have these the 4 withouts. It's hard to explain, right? And then the 5 failures, meaning that these people, anyone who has failed in investments, who feel frustrated in life, who have broken relationships, who have extraordinary psychological burdens, and who exhibit mental abnormalities. So the CCP's grassroots organizations are trying to identify these individuals in communities and keep an eye on them. As the economy deteriorates, that's the majority of the people in China. So essentially, the CCP is saying that they're going to watch everyone. When you watch everyone, it's like watching no one. However, the CCP leaders are apprehensive about being the target of retaliation from ordinary citizens who have grievances. So security guards are spotted outside. Let me show you this. So here is a picture of an elementary school in Beijing. It's called Yaer Elementary Primary School. And this school is located in a historical alley in the old town of Beijing, in like the heart of Beijing. Many of the children and grandchildren of high-ranking officials attend this primary school. So you see there are police guards with the dog outside the school. And then in the middle school or high school called 人大附中, it's the high school or middle school affiliated to Renmin University. And here you see there is a police car stationed outside, and special police in black uniforms patrolling the street outside the school. Now this high school is famous for the high-profile parents of the students. And many of the leaders, children and grandchildren, attend this middle school or high school. So, and this is new. These police security forces outside these schools are new. They're recently added. So the CCP leaders know full well that their families may be the target. So apart from increased car ramming cases in the past few days, this type of random acts of violence have reached the least likely group, college students. When I say least likely group, I meant, Chinese metaphorically called college students 天之骄子, that's heaven's chosen ones. It means that the college students, the young people who are in college, um, are very fortunate, meaning that their great talent, their young age, will bring them a bright future. Um, and then a week after the night ride movement was suppressed, campus violence has been the talk of the nation in the past week. So one such incident happened on November 16th at the Wuxi Institute of Arts and Technology. Let me come back. And what happened was 4 male students went on a killing spree. According to people who are familiar with the case, the seniors at the school must work at factories as part of their internship. And they received wages that's 1/3 or to half lower than regular workers' wages. And the deducted amounts were pocketed by the school. So a student working for a month at such internship programs contributes to the school about between 2,000 to 3,000 yuan a month. And the school makes 10,000 to 12,000 yuan per student over a typical internship of 3 to 6 months. And that's quite a lot of money. And 10,000 to 12,000 yuan is like 3 to 4,000 dollars, yeah, per student. And not only that, the students work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no days off, and they still have to work if they're sick. And what if the students refuse to work? Well, the school would fail their exams and force them to pay a hefty fee for re-examination. And the worst, it can be that they will threaten with their diploma. So one of the 4 desperate students wrote a letter explaining their motives. And basically, they're frustrated by the schools maliciously withholding their diploma. And then after having worked 16 hours shifts daily for 30 days with no breaks, and yet not being paid. And after exhausting all venues of negotiation, these students, realize that there's nothing they can do other than, taking their grievances to the extreme. And what they did resulted in at least 8 deaths and 70 injuries on campus. I must say it's very sad to read the letter that one of the 4 young men wrote. Because these young people are still brainwashed, they only saw they only saw it as a labor issue. They didn't see it as, they didn't see it as a political issue, but they purely only look at it as a labor issue. So they want to, sacrifice themselves to bring awareness of labor issue in China. But obviously the problem is bigger than just labor issue. It's not labor issue. There's a whole string of issues behind that. But I don't think that school is the only one, having this kind of practice for internship. And then on November 20th, yesterday, another stabbing incident happened in the dormitory of Hangzhou Dianzi University, or Digital Science University in Zhejiang province. We're not clear about how many people were injured or the casualties. Now, the amount of pressure young people have in China right now is tremendous. They're young and full of energy. However, when they're not given a job, to do after spending 4 years or 6 years in school, after having spent, so much money, that their parents saved or worked hard to make for them, When they're not able to find a job, when they're not given any room to express themselves, not given any space to do something crazy like any young people would, and not seeing any hope for their future, but being forced to live a life that their parents or government had chosen for them, they're in despair. And the mental state of China's young people, the collective mental state of China's young people right now is a worrisome, is a whole subject in itself. It's worrisome. I'll address that in a separate program. So speaking of these tragic incidents, they have occurred continuously. They're not new. We didn't hear about them. That's because the media didn't report on them. They have always happened. Ever since the CCP came to power, they have occurred. But there have been two major waves. The first wave occurred in the 1990s when the then Premier Zhu Rongji, shut down and reorganized 200 to 300,000 state-owned enterprises, leaving 20 million workers unemployed. The massive layoffs caused a severe social discontent, and numerous tragic incidents occurred during that time. And then after China joined the WTO, infrastructure construction boomed across the country. These projects led to the second wave of violent clashes, such as, there were bloody clashes over forced evictions, over land uses. But in the past two waves, grievances had a clear target. Those who caused trouble were sought out for revenge. But now the perpetrators vent their anger on innocent people. These individuals have completely lost hope and retaliate against society indiscriminately. Back then, the retaliation affected people at the bottom of the social strata, or the people who immediately dealt with them. The elite class remained indifferent. But now, however, everyone is affected, including the elite class. Or if they were not affected, the CCP wouldn't put extra security outside the elementary school or the middle school, right? So now everyone feels the threat and then the risks. And on November 18th, videos circulating on internet showing a large crowd of homeowners protesting in Shanghai. A group of police arrived to suppress them, and with several homeowners being dragged away by police. Now, the protest stemmed from the developer. I mean, there are homeowner protests breaking out across China every day, everywhere. But this protest caught people's attention because who they are. 2 days before that, on November the 16th, over 300 homeowners from the property of, it's called Suhewan number 1 in Shanghai. The homeowners, 300 of them, issued a notice stating that they would collectively stop paying their mortgages because of the delay in delivering their properties. By the way, in China, people pay mortgages before getting their homes because new homes are sold before being built. So the project, this Suhe River or Suhewan number 1 development, opened for sale in November 2021, and it sold. The selling price was almost 129,000 yuan per square meter. When I convert that to dollars, it's about $1,700 US per square foot. And it's higher than Manhattan's median price of $1,300 per square foot. So it's uber expensive. It's considered the most, it's probably the most expensive neighborhood in Shanghai. The homes were originally scheduled to be delivered by June 30th this year, but the developer postponed the delivery date twice. And recently, the homeowners just learned that the developer was in a financial dispute with the contractor, which is China State Construction Engineering Corporation. It's a SOE. So this led to yet another delay. And the worst is that there's no delivery date in sight. The project occupies a prime location in the heart of Shanghai. So the homes are priced at between 20 to 30 million yuan, which is about $3 to $5 million. So these are expensive homes, and the homeowners who were there protesting are the super wealthy Chinese, right? I mean, the fact that they're able to afford a home that's $5 million, that means they have wealth, several times higher than that. So people say it's the first time that they've seen a large group of super wealthy Chinese publicly gathering to protest and to fight with the police. And that's something new. Because of the price point of these properties, so every one of them is a super wealthy. And this is new because China's economy has never been so bad. I think I think these homeowners probably wouldn't protest like that. And what they're demanding is refund. They're saying that, okay, if you can't promise delivery of these homes, then give us a refund. We want our money back. And that's what these people are asking, which I doubt that they will get the money. So, and the only reason we never saw this kind of protest by the super wealthy was because, China's economy wasn't as bad as it is now. I want to show you how bad the economy is. Where is it? Oh, here we go. This image took a lot of people by surprise. It basically said, Guangdong, the capital city of Guangzhou, experienced an unemployment rate of 37% in the month of September. Now, Guangdong is the wealthiest province in China. It leads all provinces in terms of GDP. It's also it has one city called Shenzhen, which is called China's Silicon Valley. It also has a major manufacturing base in Dongguan. So Guangdong province contributes 20% of China's total exports. Now, 30% unemployment in the capital city of Guangzhou, that's shocking, because what it means is that unemployment rate in the poorer provinces like Gansu or Henan must have been 50% or even higher. Because if Guangzhou is at 37%, what about the poorer provinces? It's got to be 50%. And this is also the first time state media officially telling the truth of joblessness in China. And then this post was from August, and it said that the vacancy in office buildings in Shenzhen is over 70%. Shenzhen is called China's Silicon Valley. When office buildings have vacancy rate of 40%, they are already they're already in big trouble. 70% is unheard of. And the next picture is very sad. I saw that. This is how young people who cannot afford rent live in large cities and still trying to look for opportunities. So now let's talk about, behind every one of those acts of violence is the economy. So, let me talk about that later. Let's talk about, but then we know the reason why China's economy it suffers is because of its is a political one. The bottleneck in China's economic development is a political one. That is the existence of the CCP itself. In recent years, such revenge incidents have become increasingly frequent, but they were not, highly reported by the media. That's because CCP leaders, kept quiet. But after the Zhuhai incident, Xi Jinping directed an investigation, listen to this, into the root causes of the incident. I think it's so ironic because the root cause is the party itself. Since joining the WTO, China's middle class has grown rapidly. Now, for totalitarian and authoritarian regimes, the middle class often becomes their greatest enemy. So, for example, during Taiwan's social movements in the 1980s and 90s, 65% of the organizers of those movements came from middle-class families. They are financially secure and well-educated, and they are typically the strongest opponents of authoritarian regimes. CCP now faces the same problem, and their problem is what I call an eternal dilemma. If they do not engage political reforms, the economy will collapse. If they start political reforms, CCP will disintegrate. So it seems that Xi Jinping has chosen the former and would rather sacrifice the economy to protect its regime by refusing political reforms. And that's suicidal because that has created another problem, causing the governance falling apart. Now, you see, CCP must heavily rely on formalism to hold on to its control, with local bureaucrats spending more time on endless meetings and studying Xi Jinping's directives, understanding the central government's directives, leaving very little time to do actual work. And those who excel in formalism are more likely to be promoted, leading to a whole class of bureaucrats who are not qualified to do the jobs. And this has resulted in the loss of government credibility. So the other reason, so that's one reason. So the CCP's entire governance apparatus, it has stopped functioning because of the emphasis on the political formalism. There aren't anyone in the system actually doing actual work right now. So there's no credit. The government functions have been shut down. They're just not doing anything. And so but people pay them to do a job, to resolve disputes, right? To maintain order. But they're not doing that. And the other reason is, in order to maintain stability and strengthen power control, the CCP has always encouraged what I call the atomization of grassroots society. So what it means is interpersonal relationships are severed or are monitored or severed, community ties weakened, self-organized efforts or entities are discouraged or dismantled. This has left individuals or Chinese people feeling isolated and helpless in extreme situations. This directly weakens the capacity of grassroots communities to respond to emergencies and organize self-help. Because if everything is organized by the government, and when extreme situations happen, or when someone experiences difficulties or extreme situation, he or she doesn't have the network of people or resources to help him, because everything is organized through the government. And then those government functions are the least effective. So in China, it's very difficult if someone is experiencing, extreme difficulties. And also, additionally, social Darwinism is prevalent in Chinese society. Phrases like survival of the fittest and elimination of the unfit are ingrained in people's mind since childhood. And those who face despair or who face difficulties receive no timely care or resolution, or are offered with no resolution, but instead are often mocked and ridiculed. And this leaves people more vulnerable. And then the party culture, the CCP culture, which emphasizes the philosophy of fighting and struggle, also contributes to the people's tendency towards violence. So all of the above have created a very peculiar phenomenon in China. And it is that if you follow, like in China, if you follow rules and resort to normal means to resolve problems or dispute, it's a waste of time because the entire system will simply ignore you. If you're nice, you won't get anything done. However, if you're rude or even resort to extreme actions, the system pays attention to you. And so this is the reason why people's behavior have become increasingly extreme. And on top of that, there's another problem in Chinese society. That is, now in any normal society, doing good would be rewarded and doing bad will meet with consequences, will be punished. And it's a universal principle. But under the CCP's rule, it's the opposite. Those who commit evil deeds are often rewarded, and good people are punished. One example is in the Chinese military, for example. Every PLA, every military rank has a price tag. So if you want a promotion, you need to pay your superior or the person in charge of HR or in charge of promotion a certain amount of money in exchange for a promotion. And if you don't give bribes, you won't be promoted. And that's just how things are. So in such a system, it all depends on who is more ruthless, who is more shameless and more despicable. So being good doesn't bring one anything. And don't think that's just only like an isolated problem in the PLA. It's widespread. Mainland Chinese do not aware how far they have gone. So let me give you the example of this doctor. Her name is Lan Yuefeng. She is the head of radiology at a hospital in Sichuan. More than 10 years ago, she exposed the malpractice of overtreatment at her hospital, in which patients who didn't need surgeries or didn't need certain types of treatment were prescribed one. It was for financial interests. So Dr. Lan reported the malpractice to hospital administrators. However, her action threatened the financial interests of the hospital and her colleagues. As a result, she was removed from her position and was resigned. And was reassigned to another position. She was made to oversee procurement. And in her new role, she discovered serious corruption and reported it. Her action again infuriated people at work. Over 80 of her colleagues wrote letters to the administration to terminate her contract. So Dr. Lan was stripped of all her duties and relegated to working in the hospital corridor doing menial work. She remained in the corridor for over 800 days. I think every day, sitting in the corridor, was a humiliation to her. And think about it. But not only that, her husband of many years divorced her under pressure. And so here's another picture. Her story was reported by Chinese media. And now, if you think about it, she didn't do anything wrong, right? She did not do anything wrong. So that's what I say. It's very easy to do wrong things, but so difficult to do the right things. Good people are being accused of being difficult and stubborn, while corrupt individuals are considered smart. With that said, I want to end my program by playing you a video. It shows a man from Yunnan who is, in my opinion, very courageous. He visited the county government on November 12th to check whether the leaders there had been elected through a proper voting process and to inspect the government's various activities. He said, "This is part of fulfilling our duty as citizens to supervise our government." 3 days later, he recorded this video. It was addressed to Xi Jinping without mentioning Xi's name. Here it is. The video is removed now. I mean, I don't think the CCP would allow that video to exist on the internet. But here's this video.
尊敬的 L
Here we go. Yeah.
导，您好，我知道您不认识我，也对于我或者说我们这样一个群体了解也不够了。但是我呢，作为我个人而言，对于您是有过系统性的、严谨的研究的。最终呢，我也确信您的认知并不高。这不是我对于您的污蔑，这是我呢基于一个严谨的系统性的研究之后做出的一个负责任的判断。每一个人所生活的时代不同，成长的环境不同，他们的认知高低并不是一个人的过错。但是呢，有些工作岗位还是应该需要那些有认知的人去做。我也经常看到您呢四处也指导检查工作，但是您的工作重点呢都放在抓方向上，抓稳局面这个上面。也许呢这个时代所需要的不是你认为的那些东西。我个人呢最近也在四处跑，我也在检查或者监督咱们的工作。在这里呢，我想向你汇报一下，但是呢我又担心您听不懂，所以说呢我就简单的汇成一句话。这句话呢就是已经差不多了，形势已经到尽了。最后呢我也建议您，或者说以您为中心的这个团体体面一点，妥协吧，不要等到那个滔天巨浪拍过去，所有的体面也荡然无存了。我也知道您这个人呢比较胆小，做事呢比较谨慎。胆小的人呢一般都比较容易出现那种应激反应，稍有风吹草动他都会做出那些夸张过分的行为。他会对身边的任何事物都要捶个遍，甚至连空气他都要捶一遍，不然呢他就没有安全感。所以说呢，我不想看到那种滔天巨浪拍过去出现的那种各种稀奇古怪的现象。我也担心您呢这个娇贵的身板承受不了那个局面，也不愿意看到你丧失体面的样子。这个民族受的苦难呢也足够多了，不如为了大家的体面，为了这个民族的进步，您呢就妥协一些。
All right. I just think this man is very courageous. He spoke, I mean, in a very gentle, subtle, respectful way. He spoke what a lot of people are thinking. I don't know where he is now. But if you really think about it, what he says, if he let's say if he's saying that to, let's say, Joe Biden in the US, it's harmless. It's nothing, right? It's nothing. But in China, my goodness, what he said is extremely courageous. But essentially, I think this video is, I mean, the man said that he has been doing a lot of studies, and everyone knows that colossal waves is coming, and when it arrives, things will look very ugly. So I'm just surprised by the number of incidents that have occurred in a week since the last time we spoke about it, right? Since November 11th, it's only been how many days? 10 days. It's exactly 10 days. Today's the 21st. But it seems that car ramming incident in Zhuhai has such an impact on China, and it's just terrible. I mean, I feel bad for the people who have to, suffer losses during these, tragic incidents. But on the other hand, I don't think the CCP has any option or is in any position to stop that. The only thing they know is to increase surveillance, strengthen control. They come up with these plans to identify everyone in the community who could possibly stage such an act, but it's impossible. I mean, how are they going to monitor, hundreds of millions of people? So it's impossible. That effort is fertile. So I don't get a good feeling about what's going to happen in China. I just hope that not a lot of people will be subject to the tragedy that happened on November 11th. But that's what I will say. Let's see what you think. All right. Charles Womack, well, thank you. Zhang Youxia has been arrested. It seems that being a general in the PLA is kind of risky. Yeah, being a general or a high-ranking official is risky in China. Zhang Youxia has not been seen ever since he returned to China from Vietnam. He has not come out in the public. But that doesn't mean he's in trouble, because there's one version said that he's still on good terms with Xi Jinping, So the fact that we haven't seen him doesn't necessarily mean he's in trouble. Yeah, so that's what I'll say. Okay, all right. Oh, here's another one. Another YouTube channel. So sad. Thankfully, my nephew and brother-in-law immigrated legally from China 2 years ago. They love America and 100% pro-Trump. Thank you for the video. Watching now with my wife and Chinese MIL. What's MIL? What's MIL? Am I missing something? Well, I'm glad that your family, your friends, came to the U.S. safe. That's good. Can someone tell me what MIL is? There's so many jargons nowadays. All right, let's see. All right, let's see. Froggy T. Wright. Howdy, Lay. Your hair looks great again today. Oh, really? Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. I cut it. It was, I cut it, and I think the shorter hair is more manageable. I like this length. Thank you. Um, Thank you, Leo. Oh, is my name Leo now? Joseph Tan. With all that monitoring, no one can explain the millions of child disappearance in China. Exactly. With all that surveillance, the disappearance of so many children and teenagers and college students is troubling. And there's a secret trade for harvested organs in China. And with the government having access to everyone's biodata, they could target, they could do a bio match in a matter of seconds. They could find the individuals. It's very sad to think about it. Oh, mother-in-law, M-I-L. M-I-L, mother-in-law. So F-I-L is for father-in-law? Oh, I see. I learned something. Okay. All right, William Maezawa. I hope China and Japan can be great friends. Japan should apologize for World War II. Can you make a video on how to deal with mainland Chinese behavior? Their behaviors are very rude. I made a number of videos explaining Chinese rude behavior, but that's a good suggestion, making a video on how to deal with them. Well, that's a great idea. Maybe I should make a video to give people some suggestions. Good idea. I'll think about it. Sir Humphrey, thank you, sir. Mother-in-law, everyone is Moonwalker. Did revenge on society acts of violence exist before CCP and have ancient cultural roots? And is it recent phenomenon? It's recent. And someone actually said, like, this very famous Chinese story, 窦娥冤, and it was about a woman who was wrongfully accused and was, she was ordered to die, and she was innocent. And so she just said, she just said, if, to prove my innocence, you shall have snow in June. It was June. Yeah, it was in June. And so she said, to prove my innocence, heaven will, please send snow to this land. It was hot. And there were a few other supernatural phenomena that she said, and it all happened. So that's traditional. People don't take revenge on others, right? And someone actually said, that's how traditionally, how Chinese address their grievances. But nowadays, I think under the CCP's influence and brainwashing, it's very tragic. The way they're dealing with this is very tragic. And I think it has to do with the destruction of morality and spirituality and faith. Yeah, like, all right. Jonathan Doe. I asked my Chinese friend if he thought the Chinese knew they were brainwashed. He said, yes, they know. What do you think? Yes, they know, but to what extent? I mean, they know they're being brainwashed, but they still don't know what they don't know, right? So you don't know what you don't know. It's only when they are able to access the internet without the firewall, and when they start to read, to have access to information that's not being censored, will they gradually discover. A lot of the young people do not know Tiananmen Square massacre. They do not know the pro-democracy movement in 1989. They grew up not knowing, so it was shocking to them when they find out. So yes, to answer your question, they know and they don't know. They know they're being brainwashed. They don't know what they're being brainwashed about or on. Chris 180, I think Chris is trying to tell me questions from others. If the CCP falls, the world will have 1 billion people to educate. How did you wake up to CCP lies, and how can the world help Chinese people once the CCP is gone? Well, first of all, China does not have 1 billion people. I proved that mathematically a few weeks ago. So if you watch my program, why China only has 600 to 800 million people. So first of all, yes, China does not have 1 billion people. And how did I wake up to CCP lies? I mean, I have lived in this country for decades, I don't know, for over 30 years. And it took time. When I came, I was much younger than some of the Chinese who came. So I had an open mind. I was ready to learn. I didn't like everything I learned in China. So I was not a very good student in China. So it was not like what I grew up with had a big influence on me. So I learned everything here. But culturally, it still took a long time to change my mentality. I think it's more important to rediscover your own cultural heritage, because as an immigrant, or I think the Chinese, the 600 million or 800 million Chinese right now have an identity crisis. They're being cut away from their own cultural heritage. After the Cultural Revolution, traditional Chinese culture is destroyed in China. So the Chinese today have been brainwashed with a party culture, with the CCP culture. They're not familiar with their own culture. Imagine, when Confucius was labeled as an evil man, how could you still learn what Confucianism is, right? So Chinese, I think with the Chinese, how we can help the Chinese is reconnect them with their own culture, but not the CCP culture, the traditional Chinese culture. I think the world should encourage the Chinese people to embrace their own culture. And there's one group that's doing that right now. The performing arts group that's traveling the world, putting on these colorful shows, Shenyun Performing Arts. They are trying to revive traditional Chinese culture through music and dance. And like, for example, I didn't know what classical Chinese dance was. When it comes to music, I used to think that China does not have anything to offer. I think when it comes to the music tradition, the Western culture is rich in, it has this music tradition with symphony, opera. It also offers ballet. When it comes to performing arts, I really did not think China has anything to offer. They may have some regional opera, but those are much smaller in scale. But Shenyun has shown us that it's not. China has a lot to offer in performing arts. So, for example, I didn't know that. I didn't know that until about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, when Shenyun came out, and I'm like, wow. Now I'm proud of the performing arts tradition in China. Now I know China has a lot to offer when it comes to performing arts. And it's not ballet, it's not symphony, but it's something different, but it's on par. It's very artistic. So, like, I had lived here for 20 years without knowing what one aspect of my culture, but I rediscovered that here through the efforts of one Chinese American performing arts group. So we need to have more people putting on that kind of efforts right now outside China to help the Chinese. So that's just one example. It does take time. Okay, Netflix foreign. Chris Chappell talked about it bring the anniversary of that 9 Commandments book from China. when after each other before the CCP took over. It sounds like a cult audit. You mean the 9 commentaries? Oh, the 9 commentaries. Yeah, that's a series of articles written, first published in the Chinese Epoch Times, but it really gave a very comprehensive analysis of the origin, the birth, the development, and the crimes committed by the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, it's so in-depth and comprehensive. I don't think anyone has done anything close, nearly close, in terms of the depth and then the breadth of an analysis on the CCP. So that's tremendous. Yeah, it's a tremendous effort. Are you talking about the anniversary? Is that, I don't know, 20 year? That book has been published for quite some time. I think it, what, 20 years? It must be 20 years. Froggy Wright. Why do the Chinese have such a hard time moving on from World War II? Propaganda? I think it's propaganda. It's brainwashing. The Chinese government want them to not forget World War II. But recently, there's a scholar, a Japanese scholar who was born in China. She wrote a book exposing. She went through archives in Tokyo and found the original letters and notes written by Mao Zedong to some politicians in Japan. So basically, what she discovered was the CCP colluded with the Japanese. The CCP encouraged a Japanese invasion to attack, and then this will tie up the Kuomintang, the nationalists. And during the time, and for a time, the nationalists and the CCP collaborated. But so the CCP has access, or had access, to information about the nationalist war plans. So the CCP offered these information to the Japanese. So the CCP was doing what it could to help the Japanese beat the nationalists. And this history was uncovered by a Japanese scholar, and she was interviewed. And so the Chinese people should know it was the CCP who invited the Japanese to invade China. And then the nationalists, the Kuomintang government, was the one who fought the Japanese. So, I mean, it's the same tactic the CCP is using against the Americans, right? I mean, they want the US government to be embroiled in other regional conflicts, so it will inevitably weaken the US. And then it will take advantage of that. That's exactly the tactic the CCP used during World War II. And in the end, when after that, I think Japan was ordered to compensate China for the war crimes, and the Mao Zedong declined, because the reason he gave was, well, you actually helped us. You actually helped me win the regime. You actually helped me beat out the Kuomintang. So he declined the compensation from Japan's defeat. So it's all a lie. There's not a shred of truth the CCP has uttered in its existence. But people do not know this. Okay. Chris 180, I know it's a question from Hai Duan. Why does Xi Jinping always cock his head slightly to one side in all photos and videos of him? This is a serious question. I don't think, does he do that? I don't know. I didn't notice that. Okay, all right, let's see. So let me see. Any other questions? Daniel Dorns, do you think it may be possible with a large effort to get Starlink internet terminals to the Chinese people so they could access open information via the internet? I think it's a great idea. The question is, will Elon Musk do it? Will he be under pressure? I mean, if he does this, there's no way his gigafactory in Shanghai would still function. It will be immediately shut down. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, I'm in 9 commentary, and CCP sounds like a cult. CCP is a cult. It's, all right. Okay, let me see. That's all. I think I reached the bottom. I seriously reached the bottom. All right, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. And stay tuned for more. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.